Welcome back to Notier's Frontiers Diaries. In this episode, we're going to talk about our journey through Colorado, but today we are in Oklahoma at a dear friend's incredible garage, Bill Dragoo, who runs the DART program.
Yeah, this is where it kind of all started for me. It was a pipe dream, and I knew that I should probably take some kind of skills class so not to endanger my life or the precious cargo on the back. So yeah, I signed up for Bill's class. It has been invaluable. I have learned plenty of tools that we've actually used on the road.
It was a huge inspiration. It's an adventure rider training course.
Indeed.
So he's been a part of our lives ever since, and we're very happy to be here meeting up with him.
This is true. And thank you, Bill.
Thank you. But in this episode, we used some of these skills out in Colorado, where the roads are incredible no matter how you slice it. We had just gotten out of the Overland Expo Mountain West, and then we had our documentary shoot for the Why We Roam series.
Which was very amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So we had a small break back in Denver at Pete's house where we were staying, and it was nice to rest, but it was also a great opportunity to explore the area. And
we were, a gentleman named Brady lives there, and he showed us some of his YouTube videos. ADV Meerkat
Meerkat ADV,
and he's doing some of the back road discovery routes of Colorado, and we knew we had to go towards that destination.
We also were talking to Pete's wife, Lisa, and she had broken her ankle earlier on this year, and due to a motorcycle riding accident. And they took a look at my boots.
I know that Marissa's boots, I've been saying, have needed to been replaced for a very long time. I mean, they were nice and they were weatherproof, but they didn't. They
were so comfortable. I was really hesitant to get rid of them because I loved them. But yeah, they weren't waterproof anymore. The zippers broken, and the bottom line was, though, that they didn't provide really good ankle support for the type of difficult terrain that we'd been going down. And so Tim and Pete and Brady and Lisa, they all were like, you need new boots. And there was a great store in town in Denver that had a wide selection of boots. And so I went there to try on different boots. I like them.
Yeah.
They feel really good, and I can
walk backwards.
I can walk backwards. It's good.
Yes, escape danger.
And I ended up with a pair that I wasn't too sure at first if it was going to be worth the money.
Buying boots round 2. The other boots, not waterproof. These boots, comfortable,
Yes.
stylish,
Yes.
expensive as
Yes.
protective.
Yes, most important.
Yes, so
And waterproof.
so we should hopefully be happy.
We soon discovered that it was very much worth the money.
Yeah, you know, I find it difficult sometimes to pry out large sums of money for stuff, but when it comes to personal safety and gear and my wife, you know, it's not as tricky of a riddle. It's just, you know, I would much rather invest in an expensive boot than in a broken ankle. So
That's right. So I got CD Adventure boots, and they are very squeaky. But they have double ankle support. So like on either side of the ankle, there are support structures.
It's like little plastic brackets that go around, and I'm sure it's much more technical than that, but this is not a how-to video. It's just us talking about the thing we bought. But
that's right.
Yeah, a lot of support, which is good.
Yeah, and they're also waterproof. So I knew that was going to be something that's very important to us because we cross a lot of rivers. Like, it just happens, you
Right
know?
through rain, right through hail, you know, it's just...
Yeah, and we're going to be going to Alaska next year, and so, yeah, I wanted something that was waterproof for sure. So we did that, and then you had a guy's ride day.
Oh yeah, Pete and I and Brady, we went, they call it the Peak to Peak ride. And it actually cut through some of the same scenery that was in our little Why We Roam video. So it was really cool to, you know, ride behind Brady and Pete on his GS and have a fun little ride with the boys.
And I'm sure it was nice to not have me on the back for once.
Never.
Aww.
Never.
Good answer.
Yes. I'll make a separate video of how
awesome it is not to have a passenger.
But no, it's fun to, you know, zip through gears, and we weren't, you know, we're not riding risky or anything, but it was nice just to zoom along, look at beautiful scenery.
So another great thing that we did in Denver was we visited my dear friend and possibly relation,
Dun, dun, dun.
Ron and his wife Gloria, and they took us on a tour of the Red Rock
Amphitheater.
Amphitheater.
It's like an amplifier when you play guitar.
Amphitheater.
Amphitheater.
Oh my gosh, now
Amplifier.
I'm messing up. Well, whatever it is. It's an awesome place.
It's a big stage.
It is a big stage, and I guess naturally the rocks of the area had this incredible acoustics that people were playing music there for over 100 years, and finally they decided, oh, let's make a theater here
That amplifies the sound.
that amplifies the sound and have like rock concerts.
Yeah.
And
no pun intended.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
It was cool.
then
and right outside of it, there's like some red rock. There's like a little arch that cars drive through. It's a pretty cool photo op.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Then around there, it's like Wild Bill's like burial ground. His
Buffalo Bill.
Buffalo Bill, Wild Buffalo Bill.
Buffalo Bill, and a museum dedicated to him, and also his burial site.
Yeah.
And I didn't know much about Buffalo Bill, but it turns out he's a very interesting person. Yes, he did kill a lot of buffalo.
Fact.
That was what people did at that time. Apparently he didn't kill as many buffalo as some other people, but he also really supported the rights of women and the rights of Native Americans, and saw people as equals to him and tried to give them a spotlight in his shows. He would go around doing these Wild West shows, and he even brought them to Europe and had, what was that girl's name?
Annie Oakley.
Annie Oakley.
Annie Oakley.
Yeah, and she was a sharpshooter, right?
Yeah.
I think one of those shows would just be amazing to see, but...
They still have sharpshooter crazy shows like that.
Yeah, it was
I'm
so
a big
cool.
fan of the Wild West, so I knew who he was and Annie Oakley, even though I mispronounced both their names. But you know, and growing up, my mother used to take us to like the Indian powwows, which is cool, was a small portion of what, you know, he did a long time ago, but
yeah, I think it was a great introduction to the West for us. it was the first time that we felt like, wow, we have left the Midwest and we were now truly in the western part of the United States, which I think has a very different vibe from the eastern part. And for us personally, we love it. We love the West and all things Western. So that was really exciting.
Yeah.
Now, before we knew it, our time in Denver was coming to a close because we had lots of things that we wanted to see and do before the next expo, which would be Overland Expo West in Flagstaff, Arizona. But we weren't going to be going from Colorado to Arizona, which is actually not too far. We were going to be going all the way up to Idaho and then down through Utah and then to Arizona.
Yeah.
So we had a bit of a journey ahead of us, and we were really, really excited to do it. But unfortunately, we had to temporarily say goodbye to Pete and Lisa and Brady.
Yeah. We love you guys.
Yes, you guys are amazing. And on our way north, we do a lot of zigzagging. We went south because Brady had shown us those videos of those mountain passes in Colorado.
Yeah.
We thought, okay, we have to do that. Especially with my new boots, like, we got to put them to the test.
Yeah.
So we went from Denver down to Lake City. The road was all paved and beautiful, and it just twisted through all this different scenery, from granite peaks to reddish stones, through valleys and gorges. And I mean, you just can't go wrong with the roads in Colorado.
Yeah.
It was an incredible ride down there. And from Lake City...
Is Lake City where the campground was?
Yeah, you found a little campground there.
Yeah, and it's just outside of this little nice town where a bunch of like side-by-sides and ATVs gather, because there's a lot of off-roads around there that are really fun to zoom along. But yeah, we climbed up this little, rocky terrain. I wouldn't quite say it was a mountain yet, but yeah, sure enough, it was yet another little slice of heaven that we found. And
it was so nice. The sun set over the mountains. It had a little bit of a view of the mountains in the distance.
Welcome to our home, everybody.
Ta-da! It was just a free sight out there, and we just set up our tent and watched the sun set.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how quiet it is at night in Colorado compared to the Midwest or the East, like Florida, where we had just come from. There's so many bugs, night insects and frogs and things that make noise throughout the night. But out west, you get that dryness and that silence to the mountains.
And we are accustomed to riding at our own pace, and when riding through South America and we find a perfect little spot, we'll camp for a couple days just to, because sometimes when you pull up to camp, it's already 5, you set up the tent, it's 6, you cook food, it's 7, and you go to sleep, and you really didn't get the chance to absorb and relax.
Right.
You know, but in South America, we found a lot of little pieces of heaven, and we made sure we had some extra food. We'd set up camp and just breathe in the night air, and we love everything we did. We had Mountain West that we did, which was fantastic. We knew we had to go to Overland West. We had Idaho, we had Utah, Moab in our sights, but I think that if we didn't have such a strict timeline, I would have really liked to have stayed in Lake City another night and, you know, just be perched on our little cliffside hill.
That's right. There was one problem with the campsite, and that was for me. For you, it's fine, but every time I had to go to the bathroom, I felt like there was someone in the valley who could see me.
There was no one around for miles. And Marisa would go on this like John Muir hike into the wilderness, you know, and it'd just be like, Marisa,
I wanted to find privacy.
You're in privacy. Like, it doesn't get...
But there's so many vistas and houses built into the mountainsides across the valley.
You could see houses that are as big as he thinks people are like staring through telescopes.
Well, it was just the one problem with the campsite.
I poop in the woods. If someone is unlucky enough to witness that, then that's sorry. But it was a nice spot, and we could have stayed there. And so
yeah, we could have stayed there longer. Well, thank you for watching this video. In the next one,
dun, dun, dun.
we are gonna do those crazy mountain passes that Brady had showed us in his videos.
Well, insanely crazy fun. I mean, they weren't the, we did them 2 up and overloaded, and so they were much more difficult. But they were beautiful. They were tough. They were challenging.
And you will see we
boots
put
in
our
action.
boots to the test.
Yes.
So stay tuned, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give us a big thumbs up and click the subscribe button below.
Ding, ding.
And we'll be seeing you next time.
Stay safe, everybody.
Bye.
Peace.